In the annals of aviation history, there are mysteries that defy explanation, stories that leave investigators and enthusiasts alike grasping at shadows. Among these, few are as perplexing or as haunting as the saga of Ghost Flight 727, a commercial jetliner that vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and a legacy of speculation. On a warm evening in May 2003, at a bustling airport in Luanda, Angola, the ordinary rhythms of air traffic were suddenly interrupted by an extraordinary event. A Boeing 727, tail number N844AA, taxied onto the runway without clearance, soared into the African sky, and disappeared, never to be seen again. To understand the enigma of Ghost Flight 727, it's important to set the stage. The aircraft in question was a Boeing 727-223, a workhorse of the skies that had once ferried passengers across the United States for American Airlines. After decades of service, the jet was retired from scheduled flights and found itself, like many aging airliners, sold and shuttled between owners. By early 2002, N844AA was grounded in Luanda, the capital of Angola, where it was owned by Aerospace Sales and Leasing, a Florida-based company. The jet sat idle at 4 de Fevereiro International Airport, slowly gathering dust and, some would say, secrets. The situation in Luanda was typical of many airports dotted across Africa at the time, a mixture of legitimate commercial operations and a bustling undercurrent of less formalized activity. The 727 was being converted from a passenger jet to a freighter, a process that involved removing its seats and modifying its interior. It had been out of operation for over a year, and the project was plagued by financial difficulties and bureaucratic delays. Yet that quiet period would be shattered on the evening of May 25, 2003. As dusk approached, two men approached the long idle jet. One was Ben C. Padilla, an American flight engineer and pilot with a background in aircraft maintenance. The other was John M. Mutantu, a mechanic from the Republic of the Congo. Neither man was fully certified to operate a Boeing 727 alone. Padilla, while experienced, was not rated to captain the three-person cockpit of this classic jetliner, and Mutantu was not a pilot at all. But that evening, for reasons still unknown, they boarded the plane, started its engines, and began to taxi. Air traffic controllers on the ground quickly realized something was amiss. The 727 had not filed a flight plan. There had been no request for permission to move, nor any communication with the tower. As the jet rolled onto the main runway, controllers scrambled to make contact, but their calls went unanswered. With a roar, the 727 accelerated down the tarmac and lifted off, climbing into the Angolan night. It banked westward, heading out over the Atlantic Ocean, and then as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone. The world's attention was soon riveted by the unfolding mystery. An entire commercial jetliner, over 150 feet long, with a wingspan of nearly 110 feet and a distinctive T-tail, had simply vanished. Search efforts commenced immediately. The U.S. government, alarmed by the prospect of a missing jet, dispatched intelligence agencies and military assets to scour satellite imagery and intercept communications. Angolan authorities launched their own investigations, questioning airport staff and reviewing security footage. But despite these efforts, there was no sign of N844AA, nor of Padilla and Mutantu. No distress signals had been sent, no wreckage or debris was found on land or sea, and no radar traces offered a clue to the plane's fate. In the vacuum of hard evidence, theories flourished. Some speculated that the aircraft had been stolen for illicit purposes. The timing of the disappearance, less than 2 years after the September 11th attacks in the United States, heightened fears that the 727 could be used as a weapon, a chilling echo of the tactics employed by terrorists in 2001. Intelligence agencies considered the possibility that the jet might be repainted and refitted, then deployed in a high-profile attack. Airports around the world were quietly put on alert to watch for the missing airliner. Other observers suggested more prosaic, yet still criminal, motives. The aviation business in parts of Africa is rife with shadowy dealings, and aircraft are sometimes stolen for insurance fraud, smuggling, or to be used in unregistered cargo operations. There were reports, never substantiated, that the missing jet was later seen in Nigeria, operating under a different livery. Some even claimed that elements within local or regional governments might have been complicit in the plane's disappearance, turning a blind eye or even facilitating its departure. Still, without physical evidence, all such theories remained just that: speculation. The story of Ghost Flight 727 also highlights the unique vulnerabilities of large aircraft in regions where oversight is lax and security is porous. At the time, airports in several parts of Africa operated under challenging conditions. Aircraft were frequently bought, sold, leased, and even cannibalized for parts with little documentation or regulatory oversight. Planes that were technically unairworthy might still be pressed into service, and financial incentives sometimes outweighed safety or legality. In this environment, it was not entirely unthinkable that a jetliner could be spirited away without immediate detection. For the families of those involved, the disappearance was a tragedy compounded by uncertainty. Ben C. Padilla's relatives clung to hope, at least at first, that he might be found alive. But as months passed with no word, hope faded. The fate of John M. Mutantu was similarly unknown, and with no official answers, their loved ones were left to navigate the uneasy space between grief and doubt. As the investigation dragged on, more details emerged about the events leading up to the disappearance. The 727, it turned out, was not in optimal condition. Its modifications were incomplete, and it was missing several key features, including working passenger seats and, reportedly, some navigation equipment. The fuel tanks had recently been filled, enough for a flight of several hours, but not for a transoceanic journey of thousands of miles. The fact that only 2 men were aboard, a plane designed for a 3-person cockpit, raised further questions. Could they have flown it safely, or was the flight doomed from the start? Aviation experts weighed in, noting that flying a Boeing 727 without a full crew would be extremely challenging, though not impossible for someone with the right experience. Padilla, as a flight engineer and pilot, might have been able to operate some of the systems solo, but the workload would be immense. If the goal was simply to take off and fly a short distance, it might have been doable. But executing a safe landing, especially at an unfamiliar or improvised airstrip, would require extraordinary skill and luck. There were also logistical puzzles. Where could such a large aircraft land undetected? Much of the West African coastline is rugged and remote, dotted with makeshift airstrips and abandoned runways dating back to colonial times. Some speculated that the jet might have touched down in a secluded area, its distinctive features quickly camouflaged and its fuselage repainted. Others wondered if the plane had simply crashed into the Atlantic, sinking beneath the waves and leaving no trace. But in the absence of debris or oil slicks, even this hypothesis seemed unsatisfying. The disappearance of N844AA soon became aviation folklore, a story passed among pilots, mechanics, and investigators as a cautionary tale. It also prompted changes in airport security and aircraft tracking as authorities sought to prevent similar incidents in the future. Airlines and leasing companies tightened controls on aircraft documentation and storage, and international bodies renewed calls for better oversight in regions where regulation was weak. Despite the passage of years, the mystery has never fully faded. Every so often, rumors resurface: a sighting in a distant country, a hint of wreckage on a remote coastline, a whispered confession from someone in the know. Journalists and authors have retraced the steps of Padilla and Mutantu, interviewing those who knew them and piecing together the fragments of their last days. Investigative reports have pointed to possible links with Nigerian IRS Airlines and Angolan cargo operator Irwin Air, suggesting that the 727 might have been earmarked for clandestine operations, legal or otherwise. Still, no definitive proof has ever emerged. For some, the story of Ghost Flight 727 represents the dark side of globalization, a world in which borders are porous, records are incomplete, and money and opportunity can override laws and conventions. For others, it's a testament to the enduring power of mystery. In an age when satellites peer down from orbit and the internet connects even the most remote corners of the globe, the idea that a massive jetliner can simply vanish is both sobering and strangely compelling. The questions linger. What motivated Padilla and Mutantu to board the plane that evening? Were they acting under orders, or did they hatch the plan themselves? Was the disappearance a meticulously planned heist or a desperate improvisation? Did N844AA meet its end in the cold embrace of the Atlantic? Or does it rest, hidden and forgotten, in some far-flung corner of the world? What is known is that, as of the summer of 2025, no new evidence has come to light. The disappearance of Ghost Flight 727 remains unresolved, a cold case that continues to baffle and intrigue. For investigators, it stands as a reminder of the limits of human knowledge and the complications of international aviation. For families and friends, it's a source of unresolved loss. And for the rest of us, it's a story that hovers in the imagination, a reminder that even in the modern world, some mysteries remain unsolved. The legend of Ghost Flight 727 endures, not just because of the scale of the vanishing, but because of the profound questions it raises. In an era of unprecedented connectivity, how can something so large, so loud, and so visible simply slip away? What does it say about the nature of oversight, the vulnerabilities in our systems, and the ingenuity, sometimes criminal, of those who would exploit them? As time passes, it's likely that new theories will emerge, new witnesses will come forward, and perhaps one day, some clue will break the silence that has surrounded this case for so long. Until then, the story of N844AA is destined to remain an unsolved riddle, an empty space on the map of aviation, a ghost flight echoing through the corridors of history. In the end, Ghost Flight 727 is more than just a missing airplane. It's a symbol of unanswered questions, a testament to the unpredictability of human endeavor, and a haunting reminder of the sky's capacity to conceal as well as to reveal. As long as people look to the heavens and wonder what became of that vanished jet, the story will live on, fueled by curiosity, by hope, and by the enduring allure of the unknown.